Okay, all right, enough of the tomfoolery over there. I am going to call the meeting to order at exactly 5:30 p.m. And I can confirm we have full quorum. That's exciting. And our Deputy Mayor Armour, would you mind reading the land acknowledgement, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty No. 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions towards real truth and reconciliation in support of the commitment to walk in the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. Mitchwich.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Armour. With that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that the council meeting agenda dated October 23rd, 2023 be adopted as printed and circulated. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, I'm not seeing any. With that, we're moving along to agenda item 4, our invited and ceremonial presentations. And indeed, we have both tonight. So we start with the presentations from our Royal Canadian Legion branch, number 242. And we have Lee Russell and Jim Simpson and Tony Evans with us tonight to kick off our Poppy campaign, and which officially starts October 27th and ends November 11th, obviously. And with that, can I ask the three of you, perhaps, to lead us into the next stage? That would be terrific. So we did arrange. What we are going to do is they are going to pin a poppy on each of us. So I will be the first. And what we're going to do, rather than walking around the table, as we have done in previous years, I think we will walk over there. I will start, and Reva helped with the organization on this, so hopefully I'm getting it right. So once we were all pinned, then we will have a group picture taken over there, and I invited Chair Lehman to join us in that picture as well, because he's here, and why not? And so, and then we will be given the flag as well. All right, so I will start. Thank you, and Lee, thank you very much for everything you do and the Legion does for our community. Thank you. Okay. Bye. So I should mention, Councillor Morrison asked the question, as soon as we leave the building tonight, we have to take our poppies off. We're not allowed to officially put them on until, yeah, perfect. Okay, with that, okay, all right. We'll just wait one more minute. Toodaloo. Okay, we did, at least I did that. All right, perfect. That's nice. And you got yours? Thank you. We'll see you soon. Okay, so we will move to our next agenda item, 4.2, and we have an invited guest, Chair Jeff Lehman, who is going to do an overview of the recent District of Muskoka recently approved strategic plan. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And members of council, I was going to say next time I'll have walk-up music, but it's only about 3 steps, so it'd be really, really short walk-up music. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time on your agenda tonight to talk about the district's plans for this term of council and our new strategic plan, but also to report a little bit on our progress towards those goals. Many of those goals will sound familiar, as I believe they're shared between the town and district. I don't want to talk about myself at all, but I will say by way of introduction that before having the honor of becoming the district chair, I've spent most of my career working with municipalities, and as our country and our politics becomes more polarized, it's only reinforced for me how important the work that we do at the municipal level is. We're the level of government that's closest to the people. It's pragmatic, it's about building a better community. I know that's why you serve, that's why I serve, and I greatly enjoy the work I do in this sector. And if I can, we've had a very collaborative working relationship on this district council, and Councillor Stone and Armour and Morrison and Mayor Alcock have worked so well together, I think, as part of a district team. There's a lot of new members of district council, roughly half are new. And so some things are new at district, and I hope to cover some of that today. So the district, we hadn't really updated our strategic plan in a little while. There's your new district council. I think the statute of limitations on new is 1 year. We're not quite at 1 year yet, but we're getting close. So here are the members of district council, and it's been my pleasure to work with them. We had not updated our strategic plan in some time, and certainly you know well there are new issues that are pressing in our community and for our organizations. So we took a look at our strategic plan. We consulted with the community and staff and then workshopped it through council. We came up with a new vision and mission statement. Of course, the vision statement says where you want to get to, and the mission statement speaks to your staff about how you want to get there and who you want to be as an organization. A welcoming, connected, sustainable Muskoka is our vision statement. And those 3 words were chosen very intentionally. Our mission statement is to deliver services and lead change towards that vision and serve and support our residents by delivering excellent value, always important to our residents and our taxpayers, and evolving what we do. We see our services as something that we can continuously work to improve. And so when we sought to put together our priorities. I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is the strategic plan on a single slide. We have 10 priority areas that District Council has agreed on in these 4 categories of environment, community services, and team. And I will speak a little bit to them in a minute, but they're roughly divided into community priorities, the things we seek to impact around Muskoka in our communities, and organizational priorities, what we want to do to modernize and continue to deliver good value as the district. But one of the important things that I wanted to throw up here, this is actually a slide from Strategy Corp, who you may be familiar with. And this is, I think, very important and hopefully will resonate with you as it did with me. Municipalities, we shape our communities not just when we spend money or when we set rules through bylaws or policies. We're asked to be leaders in our community, and we have people in our community who expect us to help solve problems. We can't be all things to all people at any of the 4 levels of government that we have in Muskoka. But we are expected to take a leadership position, and we can use the role of municipalities to convene our communities to work for collective solutions that may be beyond our own organizations to deliver. So we may not be able to solve the housing crisis ourselves. We don't have enough money or power in some cases. But boy, we can pull the community together, those charitable organizations, the NGOs, the development community, to try and tackle the housing crisis together. And so that's what we call the convening role you see here on the right-hand side of the slide. You know, we have the things we can control, our services, but then there are the things that the community needs. And we often hear the most about those things from our residents. And that's where we can lead and convene and, of course, advocate to other levels of government to try and make change. And so we divided our strategic plan into these sort of 2 categories, or these 4 categories, 2 outward-facing community priorities and 2 sort of a little more inward-facing on the organization. The community priorities are about the environment, fighting climate change and protecting our incredible Muskoka natural environment, our watershed, and trying to walk the talk in doing that as district. And in communities, these will likely be familiar to you: housing, of course, and the attainability of housing. Good jobs and workers to fill them. We see part of the district's role in supporting the Muskoka economy, in reducing barriers to employment and helping our economy continue to diversify. And then community health and well-being. Health and social supports, of course, many of these the district does deliver directly. We have a role in healthcare and as the social service delivery agency. But this is another area where we need all of our community partners to work together to try and help meet the needs of our residents. Internally, organizationally, and I should have, it's terrible of me not to introduce Julie Stevens, who's here with me tonight. My apologies.
It was actually my apologies.
No,
I just noticed
my
after.
my
and then you
business
started.
partner.
CEO Stevens, my apologies. I
who
should
is,
have mentioned you were here and in the audience.
And Julie, of course, is no doubt no stranger to any of you. I have the great fortune of working with Julie every day. Somebody who's so committed to our organization, and of course a Huntsville resident, so knows the town well. And these are priorities in many ways that Julie has led and continues to lead. Aligning services. This is something that we often hear from residents, making sure that our services are delivered in the best value way, at the right level, in the right way. Service excellence, we need to talk a little bit more and communicate better about how we do what we do, but we always, of course, strive to deliver the best service we can, and always with a mind to the future. I think one of the challenges that all of us have as elected officials is that we are operating in a political world, however pragmatic local government is, and that does mean we are responsible to our residents and answer to our residents. But it needs to be beyond just election cycles. Many of the challenges that affect our communities aren't solved in 4 years or 2 years or with headlines. They're solved with hard work over time, and that means continuing work between councils and cross councils. And our team, this is becoming, so it has always been one of the most important things for any organization, but we face some challenges at District right now. We have a significant number of vacancies in our healthcare portfolio. You have probably read about some of the challenges we've had with staffing in long-term care. That's a challenge across the entire long-term care sector. But more broadly, we want to invest in our people to attract very good people, top talent. And we recognize that it is only by working together with the area municipalities and indeed the upper levels of government that will accomplish our goals. I'm not going to dive into this, but we did distribute this document, which is the district's action plans. As they say about movies, if you see only one movie this year, if you read only one district document this year, make it this one, because these action plans are the result of a great deal of work as always by our staff in response to council's priorities. And this is a typical page that I've got from the action plans up on this slide. And just to break down how that works, we talk about the impact or the influence we want to have through the objective piece. We talk about the outcomes, what we've heard success looks like for each of those goals. And then we lay out specific actions. And very importantly, we then say, what are the measures by which we'll measure our success? And that's a piece I just wanted to spend a minute on as well. So I've been in and around the municipal sector most of my career, and I think one of the things that many organizations can be guilty of from time to time is we count things to measure our success. We don't always measure the impact of what we do. We measure how much we do it rather than whether we're having an impact. And so it was important to me, and I think to our organization, that we shift from what we sort of call volume metrics to outcome metrics. Are we really making an impact with our policies, with our spending, with our programs? And so you have some examples on this slide of sort of volume metrics and outcome metrics, and we are trying to move towards the right-hand side to really be able to report to our community on whether what we are doing, when we do more of it or do it differently, has an impact. Okay, so I want to just spend a few more minutes of your time on some of our progress, because of course we're here in October and we haven't sat still. The priorities that we have laid out, many of which were already underway, but others are new, and the progress I'm reporting to you today is sort of early progress. I think you're probably all familiar that the district provides GIS services. We have been undergoing, as part of integrated watershed management, an extensive effort to map floodlines and LIDARs across the district. We're 80% complete on LIDAR coverage, and most of the non-surveyed areas is Crown land and vacant. In Huntsville, we're currently completing some of the water bodies here, Buck Lake, Buck River, Fox Lake, Ripple, and a number of others. That should be done by February, and it'll be available on the GIS GeoHub website. And of course, we work together to develop our adaptation plans for climate change, together with area municipalities, including, of course, here at the town. And you have made a quick start on that through the Climate Change Committee and the work that you were doing to implement it. And we see that as a partnership, as the district and the town work together. We have our role in mitigating climate change. It is an important role. It's a global effort. We also have the reality of some of the impacts starting to hit us, and so we've got to start working to adapt, and we'll work together to do that. On housing, which in many ways, you know, if you have to pick a top priority, this is certainly up there. The housing crisis is affecting us across Muskoka, but it hits a little differently here than in other parts of Ontario, I think. I am pleased to report that District Council made the largest investment it's made to date through the Muskoka Affordable Housing Incentive Program, or MAHIP. We recommended 28 units. That's a $2.4 million investment in affordable housing just for this year, and 10 of those units were here in Huntsville. Over the last 7 years, we've funded 64 units in Huntsville. And in fact, Huntsville's been the majority of MAHIP projects in the District of Muskoka to date. We reconstituted our task force. That's why it's called 2.0. There's a picture there. It is ably led by the Mayor of Muskoka Lakes, Peter Kelly, but includes a diverse cross-section of industry, advocates, local representatives, and staff, including Mayor Alcock, Councillor Morrison, and Kirsten Maxwell. And the district also hosted 2 housing funding forums. You may have seen these earlier in the year, as we try and get information out there about how to get affordable housing funded in the district. Childcare, these 3 initiatives are very much in the category of attempting to reduce barriers to employment. We see one of our roles as district in helping to address the workforce challenges that Muskoka employers are facing by helping people be able to get into the workforce, and childcare is a key piece of that. So CWELC, C-W-E-L-C-C, is the acronym for the federal $10 a day program. It is being rolled out across the district. The goal is 373 additional spaces by the end of the year. We do anticipate 118 of those spaces being open by the end of this year. So there has been good, quick progress on it, including, by the way, a planned childcare facility at the Fairburn home, which I'll get to in a moment. The picture on the top right is from muskokaregion.com. You may have heard there's an initiative that I've brought to District Council to begin a local immigration partnership here in Muskoka. That's in response to the growing number of newcomers, new Canadians we see moving to Muskoka and entering the workforce here in particular, whether they live here or at the moment commute. We're a little behind the ball in Muskoka on settlement services for new Canadians. Local immigration partnerships are federally funded. They're a way to bring structure and support to the expansion of settlement services, and we've had a very good response to this. Early days yet, but we plan to apply, if all goes well, to the federal government around Christmas time or early in 2024 for funding. The Muskoka Job Board came out of collaborative work between local economic development officers and the district, and a grant that we got from the province. This one I'm really, I love this slide. So this is, has been approved by District Council. This is the 10-year master plan to expand paramedic services. One of the challenges, and I'm preaching to people who know this story already, in Muskoka, we're a big district, and it's tough to provide the same level of service everywhere across 6,000 square kilometers. Muskoka Paramedic Services have a plan to expand their services, including much better coverage in the west part of Muskoka, Muskoka Lakes and Georgian Bay, and also in Lake of Bays and a little bit here in the town. And you can see that with the expanded service areas that are on these maps. Fairburn, notwithstanding the challenges, the budget challenges we are already seeing, the costs associated with building anything on the Canadian Shield, anything underground can come with surprises, and we're already seeing a few negative surprises on the cost of construction. But this is a really, I mean, this is the mandatory politicians with hard hat photo from the opening. But honestly, I'm very, very proud of the choice, and it was made by the previous district council to build a home on a social model, not an institutional model, that will be a place of dignified living for 160 seniors here in Huntsville. And when it is complete, and no doubt there will be challenges along the way, this will be home to 100 more seniors here in Huntsville than we have capacity for currently. Quick couple of notes. We have done a review of capacity allocations. That sounds really boring, but it's incredibly important to support the expansion of housing and development here in the town. What we had found at District was we had given servicing capacity to some developments many, many, many years ago that hadn't yet been built. And that meant we were running out of capacity, even though our plants were running well below capacity. So we've done a review of that. We've got a new process that's been welcomed by the home building community. Road rationalization study, we are looking at roads, which ones are district roads and why. That is some work that was begun by C.C. Tatum in 2018, and we have sort of resurrected some of that work. And I wanted to touch on briefly as well, modernizing our planning processes. This is something we often hear, both from residents and the industry. Can we work together to ensure that the development application process is seamless and efficient? Through a variety of programs, including Plan Hub, which is an online portal for submission of all of your application documents and updating on application status in real time. That's something that both the town and the district can use for official plan amendments and so forth. We hope to better serve the development process and be more efficient in our development process as well. We heard we need to communicate better as district about what we do and why we do it in the way that we do. And so here are some statistics on some of the increased pace of communications we have seen out of district. Hopefully you're seeing and feeling that online and in the media. And of course, we work together on the Diggin' Downtown project, and actually we're given an award jointly between the town and the district for the communications. We learned some lessons, a few the hard way, but I think there were some really good practices on this that we're now making a regular practice on district road projects going forward, and the results, I think, speak for themselves. A beautiful downtown environment here in the town. We also won an award for MAILTE, the Muskoka Area Indigenous Leadership Table. The other day unveiled these new signs on Highway 400 for the renamed Muskoka Road 38, Ganyan Gahaga Yohadache, in the Mohawk language means Mohawk People Road. And that it was a big moment, I think, for many in the Wata community, as well as all of us at District. I just wanted to close by throwing this slide up, which is our values. We try and live these as an organization in our community and in the way we do our jobs. But I'll close by saying that it's been a huge honor and a little bit drinking from a fire hose to take on this role as your new district chair. I'm following in some very, very big footsteps from Chair Klink's work over the years, but I will say there's been a real energy, I think, around the table. Already, I feel we've made some good progress on our goals and are working together well. But I'm here today to answer any questions I can about our plans, and certainly after today, happy to engage with any of and all of you. So thank you for your time.
Chair Lehman, thank you very much for your presentation. Incredible information. Before I open it to the council for questions, I actually want to say thank you for your continued support on the new Fairburn build. You made reference to the fact that there have been cost escalations, and they have been significant. And I know that it was started before, but in fact, it's required continued support. And you've been there for that. And your reference to support for the social model versus the older sort of institutional model is, I think, very important from this council's perspective, for this community's perspective, because we know we're building something that, you know, we reference as home, and it is closer to home. So thank you for that. And I guess at that point I would ask if there are any questions from council. All right. Yeah, Councillor Stone. Oh, I thought you were doing this. Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, okay. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Through your worship, thanks, Jeff, Chair Lehman, for the presentation. It was excellent. I'm really glad to see this strategic plan taking place right now. I'm just wondering with the MAHIP program, and that's, do we see Huntsville still being the leader in applicants for that, like going forward? Because I know that I think it's been open more brighter or broader now, and I think through COVID, I don't think there was that many applications, but I'm just curious.
No,
what we see.
you're right, Deputy Mayor Armour, indeed, through you, your worship. The program was undersubscribed in 2022, and then we saw a major influx of applications, and a number of those were from Huntsville. And there are certainly more in the planning stages that I anticipate, whether it's MAHIP or another one of our programs, will come forward. I do think Huntsville is providing a lot of leadership in this role, and there are a number of project opportunities. So I don't, the intake hasn't opened for next year yet, but certainly this year we saw a big jump. We couldn't fund everything, even at this level of investment, and again, the majority were from Huntsville.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks, Chair Lehman, for coming. Great strategic plan, I think, moving forward. We're going through the process here, and I think in the start of our process, I think our fundamental, the big thing that came out for us was communication. So nice to see that in there, and I'm looking forward to completing ours, but thanks again for coming.
I'm glad you raised that. I was thinking the same thing. Communication seems to be the really important reminder to all of us how we need to get it right. And we do have the same consultant. We also are using Strategy Court, so I hope that there will be some synergies. That'd be great. Councillor Morrison, did you? No. I will, but after. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, the question I have is about the, and thank you for your presentation, Director Lehman, that was excellent. The Muskoka Paramedic Services and their 10-year master plan, are they increasing the number of vehicles that they're going to have? Is that in order to get this larger coverage? Yes?
Yeah, all of the above, stations, vehicles, and staff. The 10-year plan, one of the things I really liked about it is it fits, again, I love plans that fit on a single slide, but it literally, each year there's an incremental investment, and they did prioritize those investments, so some were already made. District Council approved an investment, 24-hour coverage in Gravenhurst, where they were seeing a large number of calls after hours, and a realignment that just went through Health Services Committee that actually provided some platoon commander positions 24/7 instead of always during the, it was a realignment of the time, but actually without a great deal of additional cost. It was a bit more of a reorg. But the new stations, of course, Glen Orchard is going forward this year, and then there will be a physical investment required, 2 new stations in Lake Basin and Georgian Bay, and vehicles and staffing to go along with them, but it's all incremental over time.
Thank you for that. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you to Chair Lehman. I must say, sometimes we don't like to pay money for consultants and whatnot, but this corporation, Strategy Corp, has been amazing at the district and the Huntsville level. And we're now using them with MindAid for strategic training for them, or strategic planning for us. And Sabine, who's one of the leaders of that, we've discovered from that little Zoom call that his family and my family worked in the coal mines of Prince Mines in Sydney, Nova Scotia. So it's a small world. They are killing it. They've given us some great ideas. And I love that they've talked about housing, mental health, and all those things. Councillor Armour brought up the MAHIP program. And I wonder, in your experience in Barrie, I know you did a lot down in Barrie for affordable housing, and you've raised the bar down there. Do you think it's time to look at increasing the amount that we fund MAHIP? And I know we're going to talk about this at the 2.0 task force a lot, but from your experience in Barrie, what do you think we could add to what we're doing already? I shouldn't have put you on the spot, but that's what I'm wondering.
No, that's a great question, Councillor
He
Morrison.
shouldn't put you on the spot, but he's going to.
Well, and this is where my CAO cringes behind me, right? What's he going to say, and how much money is he going to spend? No, I think the biggest question for affordable housing is, pardon the pun, how do you get the biggest bang for the buck? When you subsidize housing as the government, how do you make the biggest impact? And one of the great things about MAHIP, I think, is at $100,000 a door, it changes the project economics to make them feasible for especially or more feasible for those developers who would not otherwise be able to undertake the project. And that can include nonprofit organizations, as well as those who are committing to affordability. I will say, we do have a substantial social housing wait list. So there is a need for public housing, more public housing in Muskoka. That is very expensive because you're building the whole thing yourself. And we were a little disappointed not to see Rapid Housing Initiative funding from the federal government for our district's proposed project at 100 Pine. But that's certainly not over. We are seeing a new federal housing minister with a lot of energy making major investments. We're told there's something coming in the fall economic statement. We hope that will be applicable here. So whether it's MAHIP, Councillor Morrison, because we can do that, or whether it's federal funding and some of the other programs, I would say there's a broader conversation around allocating capital to our priorities that we have to have within the bounds of limited capital at the District of Muskoka. But I think everyone on council, I hate to speak for all of you, but I think everybody knows housing's a huge priority, and so I would be surprised if we did anything less than more. How much more we can afford to do, I think that's a question for budget, which is coming up. Yeah.
I think you must have done a good job because your CAO didn't roll her eyes once.
She hasn't fallen out of her chair yet. Yet. She's got a good poker face.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Schumacher. And then
Through you, thank you, Chair Lehman. Yeah, and I guess mine ties into that is, I guess with the hope, I guess the last I heard was like an 8-year wait list for district housing. The goal would be to kind of get that down. My other job area is in developmental disabilities and housing in that sort of sector there, and I guess I didn't quite see numbers on this slide, but I'm guessing that's where that kind of connects, is the goal is to get that wait list down?
Yeah, always. And we had quite a discussion, both internally and at council, around can we put numbers against some of these metrics, and there are some of our metrics that are in the action plans where you will see hard numbers that are our targets. I would say that the piece that probably will yield results for us as well, we're undertaking a highest and best use study for all of the existing sites. And that will be very helpful in looking for opportunities for further expansion of public housing in Muskoka. I do think part of the answer there is going to be collaboration with organizations like the Muskoka Community Land Trust and others who are not-for-profit providers and are able to ultimately build good housing for people who might be on the wait list. But that is in no way to suggest that we shouldn't take anything less than a leading role ourselves in trying to expand. I mean, the wait list at 680 households is unlikely to be, eliminated in the short term. That's too big a number, even with a substantial federal investment. But the wait list as well may contain people who are on many wait lists in different places around central Ontario, for example. So what's important is the progress we make in making faster progress than we have in the past. And that will require provincial and federal funding, but I think there's work that we can do from the point of view of the portfolio managers and the Muskoka Housing Corporation too.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Your Worship, I didn't even mention maybe the biggest news out of district last week, which was local share.
Which we will get to, but unless you would
will.
like to
All right.
burst
No,
our, unless you want to burst our bubble.
I didn't mention
that-
it, and I'm
that-
not going to steal your thunder, so I'll just leave it there
Well,
and say thank you for the
that's-
airtime.
That's okay. That's okay. I know, it was pretty darned exciting. But maybe we should mention it now since you've raised it, Chair
So,
Lehman.
see, I blew it right there,
See?
my first
See?
time in front of you, and I had
That's
to go.
okay.
and-
It means less reporting from me, which everybody will be greatly relieved. So, would you like to
Well,
speak to the big news after?
It was a long process for many others than me. I only came to this in the last 10 months. But what I did want to say was a thank you, Mayor Alcock, because I think yourself, especially in supporting some of our other district council partners, this was a tough issue. And for the 6 different municipalities that make up the district, there were some differing views. I think ultimately the work that was done by the local share committee and then at Health Committee of Council led to a much more unified outcome, and you played a direct role in that, so I want to thank you for that. And I think it was important to me that all of us, that District Council be as supportive as possible of that funding commitment for the hospital here in Huntsville and of course the South Muskoka campus as well. So I'll just say that. You can talk about the details. But I'm aware that, Huntsville showed leadership early on in the process with your own commitment towards the project, and I think that helped around the table as well.
Thank you for that. And I totally agree. I think the outcome of having 20 of the 22 councillors in support of the district share of $77.3 million towards the local share for the hospital build was really fantastic. It was as close to unanimous as we ever thought we would get. So that was pretty neat. And we'll go into it maybe later, but mostly we did
Now
it.
that I've stolen your
Okay,
thunder.
you have. You've completely stolen, but that's okay. That's all right.
Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Okay. Okay. Moving right along to agenda item number 5, council minutes. I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that the following council meeting minutes be adopted as printed and circulated. Regular meeting, September 25th, 2023. Special meeting, October 11th, 2023. Planning Council, October 11th, 2023. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Okay. So, moving to reports from committees, the first one being 6.1.1, Huntsville Public Library Board, August 8th, 2023. Councillor Cloutier, would you like to speak to these minutes?
Through you, Your Honor. Yeah, everything is going there, working on the budget. I think a lot of it's been passed in. I've had a little bit of trouble lining up meetings because of personal things that have been going on with a few people and myself. But anyways, everything's going good there.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions for Councillor Cloutier? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to Downtown Huntsville BIA. Councillor Renwick?
Thank you, Your
anything to
Worship.
report?
It's always interesting that the meeting, or the minutes come out the month after. So I always feel like there's so much I want to tell you, but I can't because it's what has to be on the, on the report. So there was one item on that, on the minutes from the September 14th meeting, and it was a bit of a mix-up with the, we thought that district had changed the parking bylaw to 2 hours downtown, which it really wasn't. It's always been 3. So it's in the minutes, but I think there was a change in the minutes just saying that that had been updated. So it is still 3 hours downtown, so that's good. But, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, not, no.
Nope.
Carry on.
So everything else, the other little item, or a big item, is that vibrancy project that's happening in downtown. And it's really looking at, I know that the Chamber of Commerce came and talked about the lighting project that's happening with Eclipse, which is downtown. But the other one is a vibrancy project that our Economic Development Officer has been working with the BIA to sort of beautify the west end of town by the Empire Lot and sort of going up towards Lawrence Street. So there'll be some really interesting things coming down the pipes, I guess you could say, but it'll look cool ideas. So I think stay tuned for that, for sure.
I just wanted to say thank you for the update around the parking and, 2 to 3 hours. That was I was a bit confused by that. But, and also that vibrancy project, I thought that was really interesting and kind of nice to see because that area has, needs a little work. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Are there any questions of Councillor Renwick? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for that. And then moving right along to the Huntsville Lake of Bays Chamber of Commerce update. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And we did not have a meeting last month, so as you can see, there are no minutes that are presented. But I would like to say we did have a meeting just recently, but I just want to update that there is on November 27th, which is a Monday night, is the Chamber AGM. And it is kind of a substantial AGM in the fact that Kelly Haywood is stepping down as the general manager of the Chamber of Commerce. So it will be a bit of a send-off. So if you haven't been to an AGM at the Chamber of Commerce, this might be one that you would like to attend or that you could attend. So it's at Canvas Brewing on the 27th of November. So
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
That's great. Okay, any questions? Seeing none, then I will move to the Municipal Accommodation Tourism Tax Update. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. And very exciting news. We have stolen Kelly Haywood from the Chamber of Commerce and just announced her as the ED for the Huntsville Municipal Accommodation Tax Association. So having known Kelly a lot of years, she has given so much to the town, 20 years at the Chamber. We didn't think anyone could replace Carolyn Goldring, and then we got Kelly. So there's big shoes to fill there, and I know the Chamber has plans, but from our board level, we're so excited. You can probably imagine the HMATA has felt like they've been interim for a while, and because of COVID and all these other things, and it's kind of like we're getting it real now, and the board and the staff are excited to really move forward on getting money into market, and they're doing some really great things. One thing I'd like to point out is how progressive the board is and how progressive the staff is. They worked with Val Hamilton at the Muskoka Tourism, I believe and they spent money on influencers. And that was a big discussion around the table. Remember, Bob, we're wondering, what's the reach? Why, what's going on? But I'll tell you, there's 2 sisters that travel all around, and we spent not a ton of money with them. They came to Huntsville, did a really cool video, and they went out to Limberlost Reserve, and they did the Hunters Bay Trail, and they went and ate all around. That video has been viewed well over 1 million times, and the impacts are huge. So that's some outside-the-box thinking that is getting Huntsville some really cool recognition. So that's why I'm so excited, is that we're starting to look at those kind of things. But other than that, not a whole lot new to report.
No, that was also a cool report. And I do congratulate Kelly because I do think it was a natural fit. She was very familiar with what was going on, and I think that's exciting. So thank you for that update. All right. I was just told, though, that the Chamber AGM November 27th is the same night as our council. Maybe we'll have to change council. So we'll go after or something. All right, we are going to move right from that to reports for adoption. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Cloutier. Be it resolved that the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated September 26, 2023, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as printed and circulated. Councillor Schumacher, would you like to speak to these, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Alcock. Short and sweet this one was, surprisingly enough for me, 41 minutes, which is actually pretty condensed. We didn't have a lot to discuss, although the committee was very happy to hear about our vehicle for hire bylaw being passed through the courts, and I know that we are doing some really great communication out to our community partners about that so that it is well known that that has changed for us. Yeah, we're waiting for that sort of streetscape construction to hopefully fix itself before we look at the spot in front of the Friendly Fox, and pretty much looking forward to our meeting in November where we get to hear updates from district accessibility, and yeah, we have, I think, a lot more planned for next month.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions for Councillor Schumacher? I don't see any, so I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. All right, and moving to one of the main events tonight. That would be, I know, now I've put you on the spot, Tarmo. Main event. All right. So we are moving to number 7, reports from municipal officers, and the first one is report number OPS-2023-47, the winter-maintained walkway connecting Ferry View Drive with pedestrian crossing at Highway 60 signalized intersection. It's a very long title, but it's a very exciting project. So, Director Yukibi, would you like to provide your report, please?
Based on council's direction from the last council meeting that we had, we've gone out, consulted with the property owner of 144 Highway 60. There is a connection to Ferry View Road across the property where Kelly's Home Furnishings sits, connecting to the signalized intersection right at Solowski Drive at Highway 60, where we actually, good news, I've sent pictures to all of council just recently. This morning we had the lines painted, so the pedestrian crossings all properly marked out there. And the property owner there is very amenable to our using temporarily the crossing along the eastern side of his property there. And we would be basically demarcating it with some kind of a barrier system, looking there, making sure that no traffic comes from Ferry View into that parking lot. We'd have to do a little bit of moving around, and then we would keep that clear in the winter through regular winter maintenance. Further work has already been done in terms of discussions with the MTO and looking at the possibility of using the property adjacent to that, even just a little bit more east of that. We're bordering right on that with Kelly's property. And looking at a more permanent trail connecting Ferry View to that same intersection through there where the Trans-Canada Trail once went. Again, the MTO is quite happy to work with us. That would require down the road entering into a land use permit with them, and we would be able to do at the town's cost what we needed to do to create the trail in terms of what council's desire would be, and then maintain that throughout the year.
I neglected to read the motion before I asked the director to speak to it, so I'm going to read it now before I ask if there are any questions. So it has been moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour, whereas council directed staff to engage in consultation with local area property owners along the Highway 60 corridor to explore options for securing a dedicated pedestrian thoroughfare connecting Ferry View Drive to Highway 60, and whereas staff located an appropriate pedestrian thoroughfare and discussed it with the property owner and would like to formalize the arrangement. Now therefore be it resolved that council authorize and direct staff to develop an agreement with the property owner of 144 Highway 60 for the use of the eastern portion of the driveway across 144 Highway 60 as a town-maintained walkway. And further that the form and content of the agreement be to the satisfaction of the Director of Operations and Protective Services, Chief Administrative Officer, and the Asset and Risk Management Coordinator. And further that, costs incurred in 2023 to be funded from existing council-approved operating budget, and any costs for 2024 be included in the draft 2024 operating budget. And further that council direct staff to work with the Ministry of Transportation, the District Municipality of Muskoka, and other partners to identify a more permanent solution to connect the town's active transportation routes from Ferryview Drive across Highway 60 to downtown Huntsville, ensuring pedestrian and other road user safety. I think that's it. So with that, are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Not really a question, just a couple comments. I'm very pleased to see this finally coming together. I'd like to thank the property owner for being willing to work with us in the town to solve a very serious situation out there on Highway 60. It's people like this that make Huntsville the great place that it is. So to that property owner, thank you very much. I know I appreciate it, council appreciates it, and I know the neighbors in that area very much appreciate it. Also looking forward to getting the issue permanently solved. And I'd also like to thank staff for being involved in the process to get this solved for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. And I would also thank you because you also played a role. I think many people did, and I would echo all of the things that you said. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Tarmo. Thanks for the report, Tarmo. Looking forward to this. Great. There's a couple things I just didn't see in here that maybe you probably thought of this already. Way signing, like any signage for everybody knows which way to walk. And the second part of that, do we have any type of communication or advertising process coming up so we can notify the people in the neighborhood?
Great questions.
Through you, Your Worship. Yep. So we have been working with our communications and marketing department on a communications plan for the rollout of this once we get it all up and running. And then second part to that, in terms of the signage, there will be signage placed there, kind of the temporary signage, but when we move to the more permanent solution that goes through the Ministry of Transportation's corridor, we would look to align with the town's wayfinding strategy to put in that signage.
Thank you for that. Just to follow up, so there would be signage at each of the sort of trailhead and okay. All right, Councillor Stone.
Thanks very much. Very much on the same line about communication to these residents. So I'm always concerned when staff say we've communicated it because we put it on our website. Never enough. I hope we can direct mail, a simple little flyer telling every household in that area that there's this new pathway to keep people off of walking on Highway 60.
Director, you keeping?
Yeah, through Your Worship, we will look at all options for communicating. Part of the discussion that we've already had is actually advertising within the multi-residential units that are there, putting up some kind of posters and signage, but everything is on the table in terms of getting the message out there.
Okay, and thank you for that. And I know CAO Corey would like to respond to that as well. That means you're in trouble, Councillor Stone.
Not at all. Thank you very much, Your Worship. So to respond to Councillor Stone's comments, we actually have a press release waiting to go pending Council's decision. We also have social media posts that we will definitely circulate through our social media channels. So we're just patiently waiting for Council to make a decision, and then it will be sent out through a press release, which will cover many different areas.
And thank you for that. I do like Councillor Stone's suggestion, though, the direct, especially to the one building where there are a number of people there who I think would like to be able to walk to town. So anyway, I think, yes, Councillor Fitzgerald, how could I forget?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Director Ukivi. Thanks, Tarmo. Great report and working with the neighbors and the community to make this happen. Are they amenable to having it as a summer walkway too? It just seems like something that's going to create a safer environment for people to walk. Have we approached them about that as of yet?
The direct answer through you is no, we haven't actually broached that subject yet.
But if I may follow up on that, but in the long term, we are working with MTO, and that will be our permanent solution, if that's what you're referring to, the temporary nature of using the private property?
That's exactly what I was referring to, yes.
Okay, so in the longer term, we're working with MTO to use that corridor. What, do you,
Yeah, that's privately owned land that we're getting the temporary thing through.
right, and so right beside that privately owned land is the land owned by MTO. Is that not what you're asking about, Councillor Fitzgerald?
Yes and no.
Okay,
Now I've discovered that that land is owned by the MTO beside
yes,
the home furniture place.
yeah.
Okay, so we may not have to deal with the private landowner for a permanent result.
Right,
Okay.
right. And that was the hope, because in fact, through all of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'll let Deputy Mayor Armour jump in, but at one point, there was a trail through the MTO property, where there's an old sort of bridge or whatever. It was part of the Trans-Canada Trail. So we're kind of bringing the Trans-Canada Trail connection pieces back to life. But it takes, of course, a little bit of work to do that.
Absolutely, yeah, I just didn't garner from the report that that was MTO property beside that. so.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, Director Yukivi.
Councillor Schumacher, followed by Councillor Morrison. Have you had your hand up for ages? Okay. Councillor Schumacher.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Ecklock. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, knowing people who live in sort of the Glenwood area, they've kind of used a back trail anyway to get down to Kawartha Dairy. So I think it is something that kind of has been used on the side. So the hope is just if we can eventually make it more permanent so that, yeah.
Which hopefully we will do. Thank you. And Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you, and to the staff and the others involved, congratulations. This is, I'd like to personally thank Suzanne Treadwell and her crew that brought it to our attention. Like, we weren't quite aware of how bad it was, even though we saw it. So this is an example of staff and council responding to a very big need and coming up with a very good solution, so it's huge.
Yeah.
My question is, with the MTO property, Director Yukivi, any idea on, I mean, I hate to try to pin it down, but any idea on how long that will take? Is it conceivable that we could have it resolved for next winter? Because summertime's not an issue necessarily, because we can traverse the Highway 60 part, that's fine. But is it reasonable to think that by next winter we'd be okay?
Through you, Your Worship, I'm reluctant to put any kind of timeline on it when dealing with another level of government, only because we have to go through all of their processes in terms of planning and meeting their requirements. But, you know, my experience to date was something as simple as painting the lines on Highway 60. It seems very simple, but it can get very bureaucratic. But we got it done once we put in the request within days of the actual request put in with the Ministry of Transportation. Working with the Ministry of Transportation has been very refreshing. They're extremely responsive in this region. They're great partners. So I don't foresee any issues, but again, don't want to commit to any specific timelines.
Okay. That's great. All right, I don't see any other questions. Great report. Thank you, Tarmo. I will call the question. All those in favor? Well, that's not a surprise. That carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, so moving to the second item, 7.2, which is the Ontario Northland Bus Update, Director of Operations and Protective Services. Tarmo, you're back. And I do have a motion. It has been moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Whereas Ontario Northland is seeking alternative bus stop locations, and whereas Council understands the importance of the bus services and the need for a local bus stop. Now therefore be it resolved that staff consider a stop location at 60 Station Road owned by the District Municipality of Muskoka, and further that the Director of Operations and Protective Services be authorized to enter into any necessary documentation with the District Municipality of Muskoka and Ontario Northland to enact the bus stop location. With that, I would turn it over to you, Director Ukivi.
So just a quick verbal report on what's gone on, what steps we've already taken, and what I'm looking to accomplish in the next little bit. So what's gone on, the bus stop location currently across the road from the OPP station off Ravenscliff Road. The property owner whose lot is adjacent to where the stop is. The stop is technically actually on town land. However, the adjacent property owner is not happy with the volume of traffic that is occurring on their lot as a result of the bus stopping there. There have also been a number of public concerns raised about the location of that stop in terms of accessibility, about lighting, lack of shelter, a number of different concerns. And so when we put that all together and the property owner's desire not to have Ontario Northland stopping there, we began to work with our district partners to look for another solution, even if it's a temporary solution. That solution came to us in terms of a wide shoulder, a paved wide shoulder, something that's been discussion around the table for active transportation, in front of the train station up on Main Street. So there's a lengthy, wide paved shoulder that's marked off with a solid white line, separating it from the traveled portion of the roadway. For the moment, it seems like a reasonable solution. It could be scaled up if necessary, if that's what we see in the future. It's also very close to the train station. There are certain discussions going on around where to build a transit hub within the town, and discussions related to that, and this kind of move would help facilitate that. So the work done to date by staff is discussions with Ontario Northland and with the district municipality. We've taken out, both the town and Ontario Northland have taken out road occupation permits, which is a temporary solution, allowing the bus to start stopping there. Ontario Northland is looking to start stopping there on November 4th. It's taken that long. The road occupation permit was issued last week, but the bus won't start stopping there until November 4th because they needed to make a series of route adjustments and change all the timing of all of their stops all the way from Union Station up to North Bay because the rerouting changes everything on their route. So they needed to give passengers enough time to adjust, get the information out there, and make all of the route adjustments required. So as of November 4th, Ontario Northland is going to start stopping there. That's interesting, turn of phrase, at Station Road. From there, we would be looking at entering into a license of occupation with the district of municipality, so that we would be permitted to put certain amenities on the side of the road there, benches, garbage cans, things like that. And then we could enter into discussions about where we go with it from there. The license of occupation also requires certain amendments to district bylaws, which is going to take a little bit of time. So what we've done is we've started the process by taking out the occupation permit. We'll move to license of occupation, and then hopefully we can get some of the bylaw amendments done in the meantime to permit that. That's the work that's underway, and looking just to get council's blessing to be able to enter into any agreements we require for that purpose.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Again, along the lines of communication, I just want to make sure that either the Northland or we have posted a sign at the current bus location advising them that it's going to be changed on the 4th, so nobody's standing there waiting.
Through you, Your Worship, the final authorization on the printing of that sign has been completed today. It's being purelated to us as of tomorrow. We should be able to get it up very shortly. And then the communication in terms of the actual route and location of the stop will be done by both Ontario Northland as well as the town, through social media, through website, through the Ontario Northlands purchasing page, there will be a splash screen that warns people that the bus location has changed and so on. This is, there is a bit of a unique situation here that council should be aware of, in that normally the bus would continue to stop at both stops for a grace period, just to catch people that may not know about it. However, because of the distance and change in routing, they're not going to be able to facilitate that double stopping. So there may be people that, if they're not up on the communication, we have to be very careful with that, to your point.
Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Your Honor. If we go ahead with the location and it ends up being what level, excuse me, of service do we have to provide at that location? Washrooms, covered building, shelter, safety concerns, parking, all that stuff.
Over to you, Director Yakibi.
Through you, Your Worship, there is no set standard that we have to meet. That would be completely a council decision as to what amenities we would want to provide at that location. And it would range anywhere from, well, quite honestly, nothing on one extreme to we could build whatever we needed to at the other extreme, provided we had the district approval to do so.
To follow up on that, though, if we had a discussion around a shelter, my guess is the district would not be opposed to a shelter going there, but I shouldn't. All right. Well, the chair happens to be sitting there, so. Yeah, no, exactly. Oh, all right, we'll ignore that, what I just said. Was someone on this? Yes, Councillor Renwick.
I think Councillor Schumacher was also going to ask a question, but if I may, Councillor Schumacher, just quickly. I'm, again, through you, Your Worship, again, I'm a visual person, so I need to see the map of where this is, but Station Road, I know where that is, but, so we are still looking at Station Road, so the hill that goes down towards the, no? Up on the main, so that's not called Station Road,
Our
though.
clerk is putting it up on the screen.
I see.
For you, Councillor Renwick.
Well, because the motion says Station Road, that's why I'm questioning
Right,
it.
right, uh-huh.
But it
Okay.
is Main Street that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Through you, Your Worship, yes, this is Main Street we're talking about. The municipal civic address is 60 Station Road, which is actually at the top tip of where Station Road meets Main Street, right at the very top of the screen in the middle there. Well, this map keeps moving, so it's hard to say exactly where it is now. But where Station Road, big S Road in the kind of top left, meeting Main Street there, it starts from that little point at Station Road going kind of southwest along Main Street West there to in front of the train station. There's a long paved wide shoulder before the marked parking stalls are there, and it's marked by a single white line separating it from the traffic.
Thank you for raising that, because I actually had a bit of the same issue when I read it, but, and thank you for the explanation. Councillor Schumacher.
She didn't actually ask my question. So I know yeah, I know that part is somewhat flat, but is there not a bit of a, like, jut up to the grassy area? So accessibility is still okay there?
Through Your Worship, I actually haven't done the thorough examination of the topography there to figure out exactly how flat it is. We do have a town sidewalk that runs through there that's reasonably flat.
Okay.
In terms of the actual grassy knoll that goes up, I'm not sure of what that looks
If
like.
there's a lip or not, okay.
Okay, but
But the accessibility issues will be looked at.
Okay,
Of course, I know you will do that.
okay. So did Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Just to quickly get back to Councillor Cluche's comments, at the current location, we do have a few benches, so at the very least, I'm sure there'll be lots of conversation of what we will or won't do there, but it would be nice to have somewhere where people could sit at the very least there. So I'm not sure if that's, I know we have to get a license of occupation first, and I understand that process. But when that is granted, it'd be nice to see a few benches there.
I'm so glad that Chair Lehman is still here, because I'm sure he's making notes. I, like you, Councillor Clark, I assumed that there would be benches because it took us forever to get the benches over at the other location. And it would seem that we should at least be consistent in that regard. Councillor Cluche, follow up.
Through you, Your Worship. How close do you plan on getting to that park? There's a, can you bring that back up, please, Tanya?
Through you, Your Worship, while we're waiting for the map, it's not actually going to be too close to the park because their parking stalls begin just after a series of post boxes. So what we can't do is we can't allow blocking of the post boxes, the community post boxes that are
Yeah,
there.
and I believe
then
that they're
block-
at the tip of the park, are they not?
Yeah, so it would be
okay.
basically the first two trees there
Yeah.
along Main Street, starting from Station Road along Main Street West. The first two trees shade the post boxes, and the parking stalls start there. So that's basically what we're talking about. We're only talking about one bus at a time, basically. It would be a very rare occasion where two Ontario Northland coaches ended up there at the same time.
I just thinking if people are waiting for a bus and somebody drives them there, they're gonna sit in their vehicle, waiting for the bus to come, that's all. And I just didn't know how close we were gonna encroach on the park.
Through you, Your Worship. Yeah, so that's where we are. And in terms, coming back to the question of the benches, the full intention of staff, once we have that license of occupation completed, is to move the existing two benches that we have at the existing stop with the garbage can to the new location right away. And then we would look at what other options there are in terms of providing additional amenities.
That's terrific. I think it's a great spot, actually. All right, I think we've exhausted the questions around the table, and I'm so thrilled that the chair is taking notes. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you for all of the work on that, Tarma. So we are now moving along to bylaws and agreements for passage, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2023-114 to 2023-120 inclusive be reported and passed this 23rd day of October 2023. I'm reading all of them, right? Apparently, I don't have to read them, so they are exactly as they were in your agenda package, which was published online. So, are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Okay, so, first item under new business, I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the following amendment to the 2022-2026 Council and Committee calendar, adopted by Resolution number 286-22, be hereby approved. And I won't read the chart because, again, it is exactly as it was in your agenda package, which was published online. So, are there any questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. So, under new business, item 9.2, planning legislated notice. I have a very long motion, which if we put on the screen, do I need to read the whole motion? Maybe you would like me to read the whole motion? If I can. On this one, I'm to read the whole motion. So, relax, and here we go. I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Cluche, whereas in September 2023, Metroland Media Group announced it would be moving to a digital-only format for many local newspapers, including the Huntsville Forester. And whereas, to address legal notice requirements as outlined in provisions of various provincial acts and regulations, including the Planning Act RSO 1990, CP 13, notice must be provided by ordinary mail or by publishing a notice in a newspaper that would give the public reasonable notice. And whereas, As a result of the announcement, the town of Huntsville no longer has a local print format newspaper available to use for public notification purposes. And whereas Bill 73, titled Supporting Ontario's Community, Rural and Agricultural Newspapers Act, 2023, currently before the Standing Committee on Heritage Infrastructure and Cultural Policy, proposes amendments to various acts to allow legal notice requirements to be addressed in a newspaper published with alternate frequency. And whereas providing notice in a non-local newspaper would not reach local citizens, and whereas it would be cost prohibitive for the municipality to consistently have to circulate notice via ordinary mail for matters with town-wide effect. And whereas the town of Huntsville already provides notice in many circumstances on the town's website, and whereas with no other local print newspaper option, it would be deemed prudent to allow an additional option of providing notice on a municipality's website or through a digital format newspaper. Now therefore, be it resolved that the town of Huntsville calls upon the provincial government to adopt Bill 73 with amendments as necessary to include a definition of newspaper in the acts listed therein to either a digital or print format. And further that the resolution be forwarded to the Honourable Paul Calandra, MPP, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Honourable Graydon Smith, MPP, Parry Sound, Muskoka, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and Muskoka Area Municipalities. Are there any questions or comments with respect to this motion? No, it's straightforward. There we go. All those in favor? And that carries all around. Thank you for that. Okay, so I have a third motion entitled Float Homes Transport Canada Designation as Vessels. It has been moved by Councillor Cloutier, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, whereas the Township of Georgian Bay and the Township of Lake of Bays has identified concerns with floating accommodations, and whereas the Township of Georgian Bay and the Township of Lake of Bays has requested that Transport Canada address the issue. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Huntsville supports Township of Lake of Bays Resolution Number 804-12-22 and Township of Georgian Bay Motion C-2022-164 and C-2023-157. And further that Council hereby directs staff to forward this resolution to the Minister of Transport, the Premier of Ontario, Scott Aitchison MP, Graydon Smith MPP, Associations of Municipalities of Ontario, and all municipalities in Ontario, Township of Lake of Bays resolution to be included in this correspondence. Are there any questions with respect to this? Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, just a quick question. Someone may, what justifies a floating home? Is it the length of time, the size of the boat, or I'm just curious because I know in provincial parks that are not. For example, you can Crown Land, for example, you can park something on Crown Land for up to 21 days before you have to move it. So I'm just wondering how it works on the waterways.
I don't have the specific answer. I should, but I know that the mayor of the Township of Georgian Bay, they've been actively working on this because they're not talking about the boats that you've just referred to. They're talking about boats that are there permanently. And because it's very difficult for them to regulate, they have issues that they can't deal with. So that's what they're trying to do, is resolve the issues that they're trying to deal with. And they just don't have that. So, yes, Councillor
Stone.
Stone. Thanks so much. Thank you very much for that. That was really good. I was a little bit blindsided, but okay.
So this issue also speaks to short-term rentals. And there's businesses that are starting to be set up that are allowing short-term rentals. It would be floating, moved onto crowned land and parked on the shoreline for under 30 days. And this is something that would be devastating to the health of our waters, for one thing, as well as it could be hugely devastating to the use of the lakes, use of the shoreline, and very problematic in many ways. So this is proactive. It needs to be stopped right now. So I'm thrilled that this come forward and we can support it.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Stone. I should have asked you to respond to Deputy Mayor Armour. I do know that it is particularly important for the Township of Georgian Bay because of environment, and that's their major concern, and they just don't have any way of dealing with it. Councillor Cloutier. Thank you for that. We just dropped out, and now we are back. So we will just pick up on the last conversation. It was with respect to our motion to support the Township of Lake of Bays and the Township of Georgian Bay in their efforts to work with Transport Canada on their concerns around floating accommodations. And we've had a couple of very good questions that are very specific. And really what this motion before us is doing is supporting the two townships in the work that they're trying to do to resolve these issues with respect to relations with Transport Canada. So as far as the further detail, I don't think this is really the place for that, but the motion is, do we support our sister townships? So are there any other questions with respect to this motion? I don't see any. Well, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. The mayors in both townships will be very pleased with that. Thank you. And then finally, we move to the fourth, and I'm turning the chair over to Deputy Mayor Armour, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a motion here, so it's moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that Council suspend the rules of procedure related to the notice to allow consideration for a motion regarding the placement of a permanent Christmas tree in Kent Park. And I do require 2/3 of a vote for this. So all those in favor? And that carries. Good. So read the motion. Okay. All right, everyone, I do have a motion here. So it's moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Clark. Whereas on September 27th, 2023, the Huntsville Lake of Bays Chamber of Commerce provided a presentation requesting approval for 7 light installations in Huntsville downtown core. And whereas the presentation referenced the planting of a 30-foot permanent Christmas tree at Kent Park. Now therefore be it resolved that Council approved the planting of a permanent Christmas tree in Kent Park, with the tree and installation to be paid for by the Huntsville Lake of Bays Chamber of Commerce. And further that, Council requests the following individuals meet in Kent Park to finalize a location for the permanent Christmas tree. Mayor Alcock, Councillor Schumacher, Councillor Renwick, Karen Casson, Huntsville Arts Association, Manager of Rec, Culture and Heritage, and lead hand of Parks and Horticulture. So with that, I'll ask, is there any questions? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. I'll turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Council, for that support. We can talk about that after. All right. Okay. Thank you. So we are moving right along to general information. Under 10.1, Council correspondence, it was listed in your package from September 15th through October 13th. And moving to the District of Muskoka update, I think I'm to start. And I think as far as District Council, we already talked about the most significant issue. But for the general public, it was a discussion around the District Council table around the District Municipality of Muskoka's contribution to the local share. And it was for the amount of $77.3 million. There was a lot of discussion, as the chair referred to earlier, a couple of municipalities within the district who were not entirely thrilled to be making that contribution. But after an amendment that was put forward at the Health Committee that provided additional funding to go towards a share that might be used for hospitals outside of the district, including Midland, Parry Sound, and Orillia. With that amendment, that brought full support from the Township of Georgian Bay. And because of that, we had 20 out of 22 councillors that voted in favor of it. It was a really significant event. And I was incredibly proud of our entire district council for that debate. So that was a significant item at district council. We also supported an anti-hate policy that is now going to go into effect. And then that's it for, I think, District Council. And as far as Community and Planning Services Committee, which I am a member, we had several presentations from lake associations around causation study recommendations. But important to Huntsville, the Planning Services Committee approved the draft approval of plan of subdivision in the town of Huntsville, which was for the 12 units on Highview, the new townhouse development that we recently approved at Planning Council. So that was kind of, that was good news for the town of Huntsville and for the applicant. We had an update from the, regarding the integrated watershed management initiatives. That was good and directed staff to continue their efforts on that. Many of the studies that were undertaken by the district on that are coming to completion at November 2023. So we are supporting further advocacy to ask the province to continue funding the projects in that area. We had two items for information on proposed service level changes, which is additional staffing. One in the area of human services, and the other on the Ontario Work Centralized Intake Expansion Pilot. And so, and sorry, there was a third proposal for service level changes, and that was for planning services, environmental and watershed programs, and GIS. And with that, that's my report on CAPS. So with that, I will ask Deputy Armour if there's an update on engineering and public works.
Thank you, Worship. We had a long meeting on the Wednesday. The first part was water and sewer, the rate-supported budget. After about 3.5 hours of discussion, it finally did pass, and so we'll be moving forward with that. The next part we went into our actually EPW meeting, which was very short. It dealt with a snowmobile crossing over on Port Carling, and that was about it. So it was a busy day, long day, and I'll just leave it at that.
Are there any questions of Deputy Mayor Armour? Okay, seeing none, I will ask Councillor Morrison if you have an update on finance and corporate services.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you. Yeah, we got to join the EPW crew for a while. That was fun. It was good, and we had some attendees. Bob attended as well, and it was a lot of good questions because there was a lot of money being spent, for sure. The one thing I would just like to bring up from Finance Corporate Services, we did discuss the decommissioning of Mount View again. It is scheduled to happen in 26-27, and the numbers are significant. So I think the taxpayers should know the money being spent there. And it's obviously very good money being spent because it's where we're heading. But it's going to be around, there's 20 million just on decommissioning. They're going to be basically rerouting 5 kilometers of the sewer, so it's pretty significant. It's going to be 13 million to do upgrades at Golden Pheasant, 38 million to do a sewage pumping station at Mount View. All told, it'll be around $91 million being spent. But it's necessary, and we're finally getting deets. Everyone always asks when it's going to happen. So other than that, there was nothing too much of substance, but that was the big one.
Thank you for that. And Deputy Mayor Armour.
And not so much a question, I just want to add to it the fact that Maple Heights is now going to have the roadway completed through there. So, due to the sewer, so there's some good news with that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I don't see any, so we will move right along to Councillor Stone. I did remember your
Health Services, all right. We had an agreement to share patient data with MAHC to support delivery of health services. Changes to the paramedic structure that Chair Lehman spoke to in having, essentially, we're hiring another platoon superintendent, which allows us to have supervision 24 hours in the paramedic services. An agreement for mutual assistance during emergencies with the area municipalities and the First Nations. So here's a tough one. So Fairburn, the foundation for Fairburn, we know that we're on the Canadian Shield, and it's a big-ass rock. And so it's very complicated rock, it's more than we thought so. So there may be a budget deviation in the amount of $2.1 million in order to do what needs to get done. So that's a tough one. And the Pines Long-Term Care, we're changing 6 part-time positions into 3 full-time positions, and this is all in an effort to help retain staff. We're having a hard time getting and retaining staff, but obviously a full-time job is more attractive than a part-time one. And that's it.
Thank you for that update. And you're right about, I had heard rumblings about the rock at Fairburn, and that there are definitely some cost escalations one more time. That's not going to be a lot of fun at council. Oh my. Okay, are there any questions of Councillor Stone? No, I don't see any. All right, so thank you for that update. We will move right along to, as we said earlier, we're raising the Royal Canadian Legion's poppy flag on Friday. And at that point, we will be able to start wearing our poppies. And under events and updates, I just wanted a quick reminder, I don't know if people are aware, that on October 26th from 12 to 4, Ontario Northland, the train, is holding a public engagement session. And they're here to talk about, get input on a number of kind of interesting and fun things around the type of service that they're providing, things like the menu. They're having different tables to get input from the public. They also have 2 different potential logos for the side of their train set. And so they're trying to get input on that as well. So I just think it might be an opportunity for anybody who's really interested in the train, and I know in our community that we do have some people who are interested in the train returning. So that's happening. And with that, I will ask council if there are any other items of events or things coming up. Councillor Stone.
Thank you. Very quickly, I wanted to give a very public thank you to Hidden Valley Highlands Ski Hill. They have donated 4 all-day passes to each of our medical students with NOSM, who are here training in our hospitals for the next 5 months, I think they're here. And so it's a donation equal to about $3,500. So I wanted to say thank you to them, and anyone else listening, if you interact with these med students over the next few months, please let them know how wonderful Huntsville is.
That's a great thing, and thank you for sharing that. That's really terrific. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. I just want to bring attention to our lovely gem, Muskoka Heritage Place. Next Tuesday, of course, is Halloween, October 31st. And we are hosting the 35th annual Great Pumpkin Trail. It is from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. The last admission will be at 7:30. Admission is $10 for immediate family or $3 for a head that is attached to a body. This year, the Great Pumpkin Trail will consist of 11 historical buildings, all decorated in a Halloween theme, ready for little trick-or-treaters. The best decorated building will be judged by our very own Mayor Alcock, and the winner will receive the ever-coveted Halloween trophy. New this year will be the Witches' Dance, and that will take place at both 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Please dress accordingly to the weather and bring a big bag to carry all your candy. I'm happy to report we do not need to seek any more additional sponsors or village house decorators because we are full, which is awesome this year. Okay,
Thank you for that update. And I think I not only will be part of the judging, Would be nice to have some help with that, if Councillor Schumacher just putting it out there. But I believe I also volunteered to be part of the witches' dance. So holy cow. Okay, that'll be a fun night, though. I think it's going to be awesome. Are there any other updates? Yes, Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Just want to raise awareness for an amazing event for an awesome new group in our town. Food for Kids Muskoka is doing a breakfast gala for Weekends Without Hunger, Tuesday, November 7th, between 8 and 10 a.m. Sarah Thatcher and her group are doing an amazing thing. What they're doing is sending food home on weekends with kids that are not getting enough nourishment. And it's Deerhurst Resort has been huge. They've been donating a ton of fruit. I think Cutter's Edge has donated space. There's a lot of people involved here. And they go home with bags in their backpack anonymously, so they get to eat at home. So if you have time and you want to come have a good breakfast and raise a bit of money for a great cause, come join us. And secondly, just a bit of a plug for the Legion. Not really an event, but if anybody out there is not a member of the Legion, it's the cheapest way to have an impact in our town. I think it's like less than $30 a year, and they need the members. So just a bit of a plug for them. That's it.
Thank you for that. That also really great. And that was November 7th for? Okay. At Deerhurst. 8 to 10. Okay.
Sorry, I'll follow up. For those looking for tickets, go on the Instagram page for Food for Kids. They have a Facebook page, Instagram, they have a website. So just search them. I'm sure you'll find them.
Okay. Thank you. Any other updates? Okay. Wow, that was really good. I love that. All right, so I'm supposed to go back to the agenda, and I'm proposing that we might go into a break for 10 minutes before we go into closed. And is that the way I'm supposed to do it? Yes. Okay, that's great. We're breaking for 10 minutes. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are moving into our last item, into closed session. So I do have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public, commencing now at 7:22 p.m. for the purpose of considering the following matters pertaining to the following sections under the Municipal Act 2001. 13.1 section 2392 C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. 11.1 confidential report Corp -2023-57 potential acquisition of lands, and 13.2 section 239 3.1 education and training session. 11.2.1 Suzanne Craig, Integrity Commissioner. All those in favor? And that carries. There's no, thank you for those who are still watching this council tonight. There is no staff direction arising from the closed session. So, but we are going to move, apparently, everybody needs to pay attention to this because when we were dealing with the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting minutes, I didn't read the motion. So I'm going to read the motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Cloutier. Be it resolved that the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated September 26, 2023, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as printed and circulated. All those in favor? And that carries. I don't need to, I already signed it because I knew. I have another motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2023-121 be received and passed this 23rd day of October 2023. All those in favor? And that carries. And finally, I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 8:15 p.m. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you, everybody.